Chicago is trying to raise hotel tax to the highest in America in all of the land. Why? To boost tourism. Does that make any sense at all? Like the article says, if you had to read that headline 5 times, same. Me too. Let's get into it. Here we go. Specifics in city and state governments can get confusing. And this is literally the article. But no, not this situation, Chicago. This is as counterintuitive as it gets. Yeah, let's see. Okay, hotel tax, you're going to tax it to the max, and then that's going to create more people coming into the hotels, tourism. All right. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, the city of Chicago is considering raising their hotel tax to 19% from its current 17.5%. All right. That seems steep. 19% in your hotel tax? Man, that's steep. 19% hotel tax would put Chicago at the highest hotel tax in the nation. And why? Why, you ask? Well, it would generate $40 million in new revenue that would be used to attract conventions. Oh, doubling the marketing budget for Choose Chicago, the convention and tourism agency. Choose Chicago, that's got to be a tough sell. I mean, let's just work through real quick what Chicago has to overcome. 10,000 businesses have left the greater Chicago area, including Illinois, just because it's so anti-business. Got some of the highest taxes in the nation, including this one. This would be, where you're going to have to probably pull ahead of California or Washington State to reach the pinnacle of highest hotel tax in the state. But you can get there, Chicago. I know you can get there. How about some of the most massive property tax increases in Chicago? You've got all these factors. How about all the kids running around, Magic Mile in the Loop, just absolutely out of control, just doing crazy stuff, looting stores, looting McDonald's, looting 7-Elevens. You've got that going on. You've got all kinds of stuff in the downtown core, just like Seattle, just like Portland, that doesn't exactly scream, hey, come visit Chicago. This is a great, great place. We've got a possible head tax that Chicago's going to put in place. Any kind of tax you can think of, and this is Let's Go Brandon Johnson talking, current mayor, it's all progressive revenue, meaning you got to tax business and wealthy people. So who's going to want to go to a convention in Chicago? Nobody. But hey, let's jack up those hotel rates even more so that we can get more business. Yeah. We're on the same page. It makes 0 sense. Okay. So you got $40 million it's going to kick. Now, the $40 million, let's talk about that for a second, right? When people see the cost of a hotel room has gone up even more in Chicago, and they already don't really want to go there, because who wants to go there? Some people. They'll go there. I went there, 2015, 2016, something like that. I think my oldest son, Kieran, was a junior or senior at the University of Washington, and he came and hung out with me because I got a free hotel room paid for by Zillow. Zillow's having a bunch of designated managing brokers come to Chicago to talk to their CEOs and folks so that they could convince us that Zillow wasn't absolutely screwing the real estate industry. I got a free trip to Chicago. I got my hotel and room airfare paid. My son came. He hung out. We had a great time. Didn't really do much talking with Zillow because I don't really think much of Zillow. The Zillow's estimate, how many loans have been made by financial institutions based on the Zillow estimate? I'll give you a hint. It's 0. Why is that? Because it's not accurate. It's a starting point, but it's kind of like everything with Zillow. It's a starting point, and then you go to a professional, right? Either a professional broker, professional licensed real estate appraiser. And you get a real value, not this, well, we're going to put out a value for every single property in the United States, and it's going to be real accurate. Trust us, right? So I hung out in Chicago for, I think it was a long weekend, something like that. I had a great time. It was before the current decline had really kind of ramped up to where it is now. There's a lot of cool stuff to see. I didn't get to the south side and I didn't get to the west side. I deeply regret that. I always want to see reality, right? I always end up going into these cities and go, now, give me your worst spot. I want to go there because I want to see what the reality is. Not this, oh, yeah, come to Chicago. It's great. It's the greatest thing ever. What they'll be using this $40 million for to, ramp up. Chicago is improving and we'd like you to come. It's a Goose Island Brewery, I think. They had a great, great beer. I mean, some of the pizza in Chicago, epic. Epic. Walking along the waterway, epic. That's cool. And you're talking all downtown. Get out to the burbs. I imagine things are a little different. Yeah. As far as money goes for convention operating budgets across major U.S. cities, Chicago's is dead last at $33 million a year. Compare that to $457 million for Las Vegas. 457. And Las Vegas is absolutely losing business left and right. Big corporate took over. Their prices went through the roof. People aren't going there. It's been a no-go. You also got an economic downturn. People don't have the money to just absolutely piss away on the slots or whatever it is. I'm not much of a gambler. That's just not my nature. Let's see. I'm going to lose this money I worked real hard for. Yeah. You know what? I'd rather go out and eat it. You know what I mean? Or drink it, whatever it is that you want to do. Something like that. Watch it on a TV. Here's my new TV that I didn't piss away on gambling. Choose Chicago president. That's a tough sell. Choose Chicago. Yeah. And CEO Kristen Reynolds said secondary markets like New Orleans and Nashville are building bigger and better convention centers and are using incentives to portray Chicago as unsafe. You don't have to use whatever it is, incentives to portray Chicago as unsafe. All you got to do is follow the news. Now, it's gotten a little bit better. This is news for reasonable people, not news for just, I'll say whatever I want. Chicago's stats are allegedly down. But here's one thing that I would say. When you're going to lose an outfit like the Chicago Bears because you can't figure out how to work with the entity that owns the Bears to build a new stadium in Chicago. And said ownership group is looking to move to Indiana because leadership in Illinois won't come to some kind of a deal because they're like, well, it's not really on our radar right now for funding. That is how bad things have gotten in Illinois. Right? Be the same thing if Tim Walz had Minnesota Vikings are leaving, right? The Vikings are going, right? We got to cut a deal. Well, you're so upside down in your budget or whatever. You spent so many billions of dollars just fraudulently funding Al-Shabaab through the Somali network, right? Just millions and millions and millions of dollars have literally walked legally through the airport, Minneapolis airport, to Sudan so that they can funnel it through, a bunch of funding sources to, basically terrorism, right? Terrorism. That's what you've got going on. In the midst of all that, you think Tim Walz would be able to work out a deal with current ownership to keep the Vikings in town? Well, yeah, right? No. So that's what you got going in Chicago because Chicago is all about that progressive revenue. Let's tax big business. So there's no business that really wants to come in to Chicago. It's a no-go. Boeing is another great example. Boeing just sold, I've got a podcast out there, Boeing just sold at a massive discount its building that when it moved from Seattle to Chicago, paid $165 million for a building, and they just bought out the land lease on that building was just bought out for $22 million. So huge discount on a building that Boeing's going to retain like 70,000 square feet. And they've basically said, we're out of here. We are out of Chicago. We're out of Illinois. We can no longer really operate here. See ya, wouldn't want to be ya. So just story after story after story. And now they want to increase hotel rooms so that more people will occupy hotel rooms. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Article goes on to say, literally, if you're confused by this whole situation, let me spell it out. Chicago wants to raise their hotel tax. Meaning raise the cost for conventions using hotels with 100 or more rooms in an attempt to attract conventions and tourism. So for hotel taxes, it would actually cost conventions, businesses, more to host an event in Chicago than anywhere else in the country. There's nowhere else more expensive as far as hotel taxes go. Does that make any sense at all? No, but I can totally hear, let's go Brandon pitch this. I could totally hear Sean Scott from the Seattle City Council pitch this with just some harebrained angle at why the rich need to pay their fair share, right? And you're just left with, well, I can see how we got from point A to point B in your case. Yeah. So with Let's Go Brandon Johnson, that guy is, he is absolutely worthless. The public hearing on the tax must proceed. A council vote on it. If it's approved, it could be in place as soon as late spring. Yeah. Here's a slightly watered down version. Chicago's tax on downtown hotel rooms could rise to 19%, nation's highest, to boost tourism. Again, this is the Chicago Times. This is where this initiated, right? You're just left with, sorry, what? Excuse me? How does this work? How did we get here? Oh, yeah. I forgot. This is Chicago we're talking about. This is Chicago. Yeah. All right. I got it. Okay. Sounds good. So here's a few more cities. LA spends $62 million. LA only spends $62 million and Chicago's going to spend $40. San Diego spends $56.9. New York, $45 million because they don't have to. Everybody wants to go to New York on their own. And these folks know it. We spend the least of our competitive set, meaning Chicago relative to their competitors. We also have additional challenges with our reputation that we're trying to overcome. Choose Chicago president, CEO Kristen Reynolds, told the City Club of Chicago this week. A lot of those destinations don't have the misperceptions of their cities that they're having to explain away. We have more work to do with less funding to do it. This would allow us to compete with the big boys. No. No, you need to clean up your streets first. It's not a misconception. It's an actual reality. You know what? Let's just go look at, Hey Jackass, Chicago, and see what those stats are looking like, right? Let's just go there. Hey Jackass, Chicago. The metric I always look at is this one right here. Person is shot every 4 minutes, 29 seconds. Person is murdered every 20 minutes. Now, if I remember correctly, when we go back to maybe during the pandemic, these numbers, and I know these numbers are not necessarily downtown. They are basically in the burbs, okay? But that goes a long way towards, but it's Chicago. The overall appeal to somebody coming in from California, somebody coming in from Florida, somebody coming in from Texas. Am I going to die in Chicago? Well, there are deaths going on. A person is shot every 4 minutes, 29 seconds. A person is murdered every 20 minutes, 14 seconds. So January to date, we've got shot and killed 12 in Chicago. Shot and wounded 50. Total shot 62. Total homicides in January in Chicago, 14 already. And we are January the 16th. I'm recording this for you. So that is the objective reality that folks in Welcome Chicago are trying to, travel to Chicago, ChicagoHereWeCome.com. They're talking about misconceptions. There's no misconception that you got a bunch of kids running around doing crazy stuff. There's no misconceptions that your business environment is horrific. There's no misconceptions that your taxes are out of the world. Absolute insanity. Some of the folks in West Garfield and North Lawndale are having 100%, 133% increases in their property taxes. And again, those are the burbs, and we're talking about hotels in the downtown. But it all works together because the ecosystem for wanting to go to Chicago has been just cut off at the knees, specifically for businesses. And the fact that they already spend, the least in the country doesn't surprise me at all. So in 2001, 2002, I think it was, Boeing literally left Seattle for Chicago. Could you imagine that transition taking place now? Folks in Seattle would be, oh yeah, let's go to Chicago. If they said that today, people would be like, sorry, what? You want us to move where? Why? Well, that's the same exact thing that companies who do big conventions that are responsible for tourism dollars into Chicago, that's the exact same thing those folks are saying right now. We're not going to Chicago. Misconceptions, but we don't want our folks to get killed. All right. So there's that. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.